Welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Today, I'm speaking with performance coach Ric Moylan. Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 30 of the Pacey Performance Podcast. Today I have Ric Moylan on the line. So I like to get guys on that have got a really interesting story, and Ric has definitely got that. So Ric was trainer to Ricky Hatton for about 4 or 5 years, I think, from 2009. Now he's got Liam Brody, who's the tennis player, and Scott Quigg, the world champion boxer. So in this chat with Ric, I discuss the boxing training culture. We discuss conditioning for a fighter, strength training for a fighter, and building up to a world title fight, which Ric has personal experience of. So it's a really interesting chat with Ric, and like I said before, it's a great story that he's got, coming from a personal training background and still doing personal training. And I think that's something that gets looked down upon for some reason through guys in professional sport, which I think is absolute nonsense. So Ric's a good example of guys that have come from personal training, come into professional sport, and continues doing personal training, because that's often where the bills are paid through the private clients, and to tell everyone that you're working with whoever is kind of a bonus. So just before we get on to the chat with Ric, just want to say that you can keep up to date with everything that's going on the podcast if you go to paceyperformance.co.uk. You can follow me on Twitter at PaceyPerform. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and YouTube. And if you'd be so kind, if you'd leave a rating and a review on iTunes, that would be massively appreciated. Before I go any more, here is the interview with Ric Moylan. Hi guys, welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Today I've got Ric Moylan on the line, coming from Manchester. So I'd just like Ric to give us a little bit of information on his education background and a bit of bio on himself, and welcome Ric to the podcast. So welcome, Ric.
Cheers, Rob. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Just want to give us a bit of information on your education, your background, and what you're currently doing.
Cheers. Education-wise, I'm studying the MSc in Strength and Conditioning at Salford University. Amongst a number of other things, I've got a sports science background, as I'm sure a lot of people have who come on this podcast. Mm-hmm. But I've been in and around sort of training the industry for about 12, 14 years now. I'm currently the head performance trainer to the WBA Super Bantamweight Champion of the World, Scott Quigg. I also work with Liam Brody, who's a top 200 world-ranked tennis player. He's ranked sort of 3-4 in the UK right now, and he's a big up-and-coming prospect for the future. And I spent 4.5 years as the head of strength and conditioning for Team Ricky Hatton.
Nice. So do you want to, I know we talked off air a little bit before, but do you want to give us a background on your kind of career, how the Hatton thing came about and what you did prior to then?
Yeah, I was working as a personal trainer in Manchester, and I was self-employed and working with, a lot of private clients and corporate clients and whatnot like that. But I was also doing a lot of training on my own, a lot of martial arts training, some boxing training and so forth like that. I was very, very passionate about combat sports and remain passionate about them. It was what I always wanted to get into. I did a lot of combat style training with the guys and girls that I was working with day in, day out. And I was doing a lot of studying, a lot of reading and so forth. And I did what I would encourage any young aspiring S&C coach, whatever to do, which was I got off my arse and I went and did some voluntary work, and I met a very young fighter called Anthony Crawler through a mutual friend, and he allowed me to get some voluntary work with him, and it all built from there really. I started working with a few other fighters, and then started getting a little bit of money, and that was when I got the knock from Ricky Hatton to come and work for them.
Mm-hmm. So what period were you with the Hatton team?
It was from about 2010, just maybe the back end of 2009, mm-hmm. Up till 2014, to the start of 2014. So Ricky had lost to Manny Pacquiao not long before I started. So I missed his glory sort of years, really, which was it's amazing to hear all the stories and whatnot. But what I was responsible for was bringing through the crop of youngsters that have now gone on to become world-class fighters.
Mm-hmm. So is that within the Hatton team? Or is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, Ricky became a manager and a mentor, really, for a ton of young fighters, and some of them fighters have gone on. One of them being Martin Murray, who unfortunately lost a world title fight last weekend against Gennady Golovkin, who's arguably the best fighter in the world right now. Martin was a young Hatton fighter. Anthony Crolla, who's gone on to win a British title and will challenge for a world title this year. Scott Quigg, who's become a world champion. Sergei Rabchenko, who's current European champion. So, I got to bring a lot of these young lads through and hopefully assist them along the way.
Mm. So it was Darren Roberts that made the connection between myself and you. How did you get to know Darren?
Yeah, me and Darren have known each other a long, long time, and probably since I got into the industry, and I started right at the bottom. I worked my way up, and I met Darren working in a gym, and Darren was doing really, really well, and he was doing what I wanted to do. I came into the industry on a few low-level qualifications, as I say, maybe 14 years ago, expecting that I was going to be training people, doing all the glamour stuff, and quickly realised I was cleaning changing rooms and doing, getting the grounding that I think you need. And Darren was doing what I wanted to do, so I've never been shy to, anyone who knows me will say that I'm not one to hold his voice, so I went straight up to him and marched up and said, what are you doing and how do you do it? And that was where I met Darren from there. I've since gone on to work with a number of athletes that Darren trains as well, a number of Red Bull athletes and so forth. So,
No, that sounds good. Something that interests me is the culture in boxing and obviously combat sports. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about the kind of perception that maybe it's a true perception that long slow runs, kind of circuit style training, and then how it's developed over the years that culture's developed?
Yeah, I mean that culture it's very true. That is what goes on. I got involved sort of, it'd be about 8 or 9 years ago now when I first started, and with the fighters, and it wasn't quite as extreme as, not with all of them. It wasn't quite as extreme as bin bags like people would portray, but there's a lot of sweatsuits, a lot of distance running, like you say, a lot of circuit training. Circuit training has become more prevalent now. And maybe we'll get to that in a second, because a lot of people are calling that S&C when it isn't. But a lot of long runs, a lot of very stiff, posturally poor, human bodies that didn't function properly, and frankly, a lot of old school poor methods. I came in with these these ambitions. I almost said delusions then, but ambitions that I was going to make massive changes and I was going to show these guys the light. And I'm sure there's a load of us who've got familiar stories. And I was met with a huge amount of resistance because the culture was, as you've said, distance running to get fit for a fight. And so I had to play a real game of patient chess in order to build some trust and slowly but surely make the changes that I felt were needed.
Yeah, I mean, I've spoken to a couple of guys, particularly in football, with the culture in football, Who is it you have to convince in the kind of in the combat sports scene? Is it the coach? Is it the kind of technical coach, or is it the athlete themselves with this culture so ingrained in the sport?
I think it's both.
Okay.
Because like most athletes, combat sportsmen they're doing it from a very young age. So they've come from an amateur boxing or an amateur martial arts or some sort of amateur combat sport background where there's usually an old guy who's been doing it for 50, 60 years and has had a level of success. The technical coach, as you say, they move into the professional ranks, and they're doing the exact same methods. And the problem you've got is they're looking at their heroes. I can say this: Ricky Hatton's one of them, who admittedly, obviously publicly, there's been some lifestyle issues, but he admittedly didn't train that great. He trained very, very hard, was unbelievably fit and unbelievably dedicated, but there was never that much sort of science, or the training was very old. It didn't move with the times, So you've got these young fighters looking at the likes of Ricky, who had enormous success, and going, well, if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So, I decided that it had to be a strategic battle, and what I would do in order to evoke change in a bigger picture, a longer run, was the technical coaches. They all feel that they know how to get a fighter fit. They all feel that they know S&C, and they know the mechanics of the body. But the area where they, by their own admittance, were not so knowledgeable was nutrition. So I started doing mostly, the old 80-20 rule, mostly nutrition changes with the fighters, and then as trust built and slowly built, I would slowly implement a little bit, maybe you want to try this and maybe you want to try that. And eventually I built a level of trust with the technical trainers that they were happy to embrace change.
So we talked about the kind of long, slow running for the conditioning aspect of the combat athlete. How's that changed, or what have you tried to implement with regards to the condition of these guys?
Well, I remember in my sort of naivety, I was like, with one fighter, I was like, right, we're not doing any distance running, and he was just like, what the fuck, what are you on about? And just said, because I'd read probably a few too many textbooks and whatnot, and I was like, we're going to sprint now, and for whatever reason, and anyway, I suppose the word is we compromised, and the fighters, any athlete, you have to give them something that they like doing. Yeah. And what I realized is actually fighters like distance running. It clears their head. A lot of them don't work, they're full-time athletes like football, say, for example. They've got a lot of time on their hands. So they like going for a distance run, it helps them think their tactics through and visualize their fights and so forth like that. And then there is also the weight management argue there, because obviously combat sports are weight dependent. So we compromised, and what we did is we would reduce the volume of distance runs, and then put measures in to try and nullify the effects of that. So lots of mobility, lots of stretching. Quite a few fighters have embraced little bits of yoga now, and then as I say, we've into the plan, we've dropped in that they may only do a small amount, or maybe one run a week, but they might get some sprint work in, or some some more boxing based conditioning.
Mm-hmm. So, just for example, the fight's been confirmed. It's, I don't know how many weeks they normally get after a it's been confirmed. How long do they get? Normally,
at the higher levels, you normally got a good sort of 3 months notice.
Okay.
Usually.
So you've got the notice. It's 3 months away. What would a normal week look like for your involvement in a fighter's preparation?
Well, you work. Obviously, you're counting backwards towards the one day. So it has to be planned meticulously towards that one event. And there's actually within the combat event within the fight. There's actually two events. There's the weigh-in the day before, and then the fight night. So you're preparing for the two. But my week would I would liaise with. From the beginning, I would liaise with the technical coach who would give us a breakdown of the opponent and then the type of game plan that they were going to look to implement against that opponent. And we'd work to a brief together. The boxing training always takes preference because we have to get things like sparring partners involved. And so that's always slotted into the weekly schedule first, and then we will work around it from there. But for example, with Scott, I'm with Scott pretty much every day, and we'll cover our periodized plan over the 12 weeks.
So we've done the conditioning bit of the S&C. So what's the strength train look like, or how's that evolved over time?
I think it's still evolving. To be honest with you, Rob, there's a few. Old myths still flying around in combat sports, that weights make you slow. That's the main one. Weights make you slow. A lot of fighters obviously have concerns as, again, it is a weight-dependent sport, so they're concerned that weights make you bulky. There's weights make you big, And
don't want to get too big. I don't want to get too big.
Don't want to get too big. Don't want to get too slow. And these sort of, you're battling against these worries and fears and miseducations. So, for what we would do is we would towards the start of the training camp, we would work on a pure strength basis to start with, building into a speed strength and a strength endurance. And making it mimic more boxing style strength and conditioning as we get closer to the fight. Further away from the fight, that's when we'd be getting our real compound stuff in, and our real we'd be lifting some real loads then.
Mm-hmm. So
that's the way we do it.
Yeah. In the initial phases, so 3 months out, how many sessions, as in strength sessions, would these guys be getting from you?
Well, interestingly, because a lot of them, they've gone from not doing it for a while, there's usually a bit of soreness kicking in.
Uh-huh.
So ideally, I'd go for as without overcooking them, I'd go for as many as I could. Well, certainly 3 to 4 a week, but invariably it might end up being 2 to 3 a week. And yeah, we do an awful lot more than we were doing 5 or 7 years ago. So Quigg is very conditioning and strength conditioning orientated, and his trainer embraces it as well. We have a great working relationship, so I can get usually a good 3 sessions a week in with him, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. So in between fights, what's your involvement? So are you just kind of offering guidance, with the kind of general training? I know you said Ricky Hatton didn't train that hard in between fights. Is that, go on?
I think historically fighters would, they'd go and have a fight and then they'd go off fall off the wagon for a little bit. And that's something that I've noticed that's changed massively, actually. Fighters are now more conscious of their weight management, and so they will tick over even when they don't have a fight. So usually, I'll be around, I'll be doing something, definitely. I'll be, what we do is if we don't have a fight lined up, we'll be working on, maybe some sort of weakness in the physical state of the fighter, some sort of postural improvement, or some sort of, some of them obviously have injuries as well, so some injury rehab and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So you were away last week, is that right? With a title fight? No?
Oh, yeah. No, I should have been away. Should have been in Germany with... Right. But for various reasons, no, I didn't end up going. But yeah, so sorry about that.
No, that's all right. No. I'm just going to use it as a bit of a segue into discussing the kind of final week before a huge fight like a world title fight. Do you want to just give us a bit of a rundown in that kind of final week, the prep for the final week?
Yeah, again, culturally, historically, a fighter wouldn't do much in the final week. They would sort of rest or taper off, or whatever you want to call it, and that's something I think has changed again as well. Fighters are a lot more aware now that they won't spar, for risk of getting a cut or an injury or something like that. But there's no reason why they can't keep moving in that final week, and there's no reason why we can't be looking after their body. So, 7 days before we'd be still in camp doing something. The hard work is done by that point, so we'd just be sharpening up, working on their reflexes, making sure they're nice and relaxed, making sure they're getting plenty of massage. Their weight is good. There'll be quite a bit of weight monitoring, body fat monitoring. There's a lot of body fat testing in combat sports, and certainly the way I do it, because we like them to make weight in the correct manner rather than through things like fluid loss and whatnot. But we'd be ticking them over, bits of stretching, keeping them occupied, watching tapes of the opponents, making sure that they've got their tactics in place.
Mm-hmm. And what about straight after fights? What's your involvement there?
Again, with history, there would be no involvement. But with somebody like Quigg, we've got a full recovery strategy in place now. So he'll come out of the fight and go straight into an icing procedure. All the major joints using top piece of kit, the Game Ready, which is used a lot in pro sports. We use Game Ready, and he's straight into an icing procedure and a phase down and a stretching, not really, but he'll then have a day or two off, and then we will be looking to bring him in. His physio will bring him in and check him out, give him a once over. We use a Harrison Ross physio actually, obviously, but there we go.
Nice link there.
Yeah, nice little plug for Darren. Harrison Ross there. I'll expect a thank you for that one. But there's a full recovery strategy in place of not allowing him just to sort of have the fight and then go and chill out in bed for a week. That's not how it works. There's nutritional protocols to help reduce inflammation and swelling and everything. So we try and go into as much detail as we can.
Yeah, one thing I'm really wanting to speak to you about, I know we chatted about it beforehand, is your business side of things. So your kind of development of your own website, which you've redone, which looks great. Do you want to just tell us a bit about how you've developed that business and where you see it going? Because I know we've chatted about pro sport and the kind of the downsides and the upsides of that. Just give us a bit about your kind of private work that you do on the side as well as your combat athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I operate as a consultant basically. I'm completely. I run my own. I'm a limited company, and I run my own show, and that involves the work that I do with Scott Quigg and Liam Brody, which is it's great. It's contracted work, but it's work I invoice for. I don't have an exclusivity. Of course, I would never train there could never be a conflict of interest. I would never train an athlete that would go against Liam Brody or Scott Quigg, but I am in charge of my own show, and that's the way I like it. I work with private clients. I operate and do a lot of seminars, and I work for a very large gym company called Lifestyle Fitness. And I teach and mentor all their personal trainers. It's the way I like to do things. I for a number of reasons, like we spoke about, working for a team, working for a club, it's not where I am anymore. It's not where I want to be. And I run my own show. I plan my own diary and I run my own week.
So you still got private clients. What kind of clients have you got, kind of PT wise?
Yeah, I work with a very sort of small number of private clients, a couple of women, not just men, couple of women, couple of men, and they kind of align with me personality wise. They align with me in terms of my methodology and my outlook and the way I motivate people, and I really, really enjoy doing that. It keeps me. Not real, that's a really stupid thing to say, but it keeps me on the ground working with a member of public, and it keeps my mind broadened so I can, what is the point of me laying down a S&C stroke periodized plan for these guys, saying that they've got to train 3 times a day? Well, that just doesn't work for them, It keeps me understanding that these guys and girls out there that are trying to achieve optimum results and optimum performance, but they have a number of hurdles that we have to get around, and I really, really enjoy doing it.
I mean, just plugged your website as well, but I looked at your website the other day, and there's a big section on kind of mentors and the importance of mentors. Do you just want to give your kind of a bit of a summary on your thoughts about mentors and mentorships?
Yeah, I mean, we're all about obviously academic stuff. We've mentioned that you're studying academically, so am I. But I'm a massive believer in hands-on learning. I said it earlier. I roll my sleeves up and walked into a boxing gym and worked for free. And I would massively, massively recommend that people seek mentorship. I have done it. I do it ongoing, and it's a service I provide. My role within Lifestyle Fitness to all of their personal trainers is one of a mentor to them all. And I'm trying to help them not only in terms of building their business and earning more money, but also every aspect of it, how they communicate with their clients, the programs they write, and the results they get. I would massively advise any aspiring S&C coach or any aspiring fitness coach, personal trainer, to seek some form of mentorship, to go and learn off people who are already doing what they want to do.
I mean, me and Darren had a couple of texts back and forth a couple of months ago regarding this, because I think as part of the Australian Strength and Conditioning Association, their higher guys have to mentor the ones on the lower tier. But what kind of things should be looking for from a mentor? How involved do you think you need someone to be? How involved are you with the guys that you're working with? I run group seminars, and I try and do one-to-one work with all of the guys under my under my mentorship. I'm in contact with them regularly, phone contact, but for me it's face-to-face, it's touch time. Within the Lifestyle Fitness organisation, Lifestyle Fitness Personal Training, they have a number of young coaches coming through, and again, part of their developmental program is touch time with the more advanced trainers. I just think that hands-on, face-to-face, watching an experienced coach, the tone of voice that they use, the choice of wording, when to use academic S&C, when to use protocols, and then when to completely fucking abandon them. I think that experience is invaluable. I talk to a lot of young trainers and coaches, and I say to them, don't, and I use the combat analogy obviously, but I say, don't be the Karate Kid. You can't learn this job solely out of books. Go and meet trainers, approach them. Some will give you some time for free, others charge a fee. That's how it goes. But I believe every one of us needs mentorship. So last but not least, the new website. Do you just want to talk us about the kind of vision for it and why you've put it together, and what can be, people can get from it?
Yeah, the idea is it's a blog, and it's a blog based all around performance, and it's in the areas that we've discussed. It's talking about athlete development and athlete training and sport, to health, nutrition, fitness, and business. Because how many coaches leave S&C, or how many coaches leave one-to-one coaching because the money's not right for them. So the idea is it's a portal for me to write my thoughts and experiences and give value to other trainers, and that's the plan. I've posted about 25 blog posts up there already. I've got another 7 or 8 ready to go, and the idea is that I'm just going to keep getting it out there and writing. I'll get some guest writers on there occasionally, but it's to become a resource to help younger perhaps less experience because I'm getting old and fat now, but lesser experienced guys and girls to hopefully guide them along their path.
Mm-hmm. So the blog's coming out every week, every couple of weeks?
Yeah, well, ideally every week.
Yeah.
Knowing me, I like to talk, but my written work's a tiny bit slow, but as often as I can. And I'll probably I've got a face for radio, but I'll probably put a few video blogs out there at some point as well. So as often, these things only work when you're adding new content onto them, and that's the idea is to keep adding away, definitely.
Cool. So where else can people find your social media, Twitter, YouTube, wherever?
Yeah. Obviously, my website, Ric Moylan, no K in the Ric, it's just RICMOYLAN. And I'm on all the social media sort of platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Very much on Facebook and Twitter, and YouTube will be growing in the next few months, definitely.
Cool. Well, I'll just round up there and just say thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's all right. I'll be picking your brain about some things we've discussed as well.
Anytime.
Cool. And that's it. Get over to ricmoylan.co.uk. Last little plug.
Thank you. Cheers, Rob.
All right, pal. Thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in to the Pacey Performance Podcast. I hope you enjoyed episode 30 with Ric. As I'm sure you'll agree, Ric's got a really great story, and I try to get, like I said at the start, guys on that have got a decent story and always got something to say, and Ric definitely fits into that category. Just before I let you go, if you go over to paceyperformance.co.uk, you can download all previous episodes of the podcast on there. There's some great shows, guys with great experience and great knowledge and great stories going back the previous 29 episodes. If you want to follow me on Twitter at Pacey Perform, you can also download the podcast on iTunes and YouTube and via Podomatic. And I will see you in episode 31.